And my most disappointing read of 2015 was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I cannot even go over how much I loathed this book. And I mean loathed. I hated this book. Pretty much from the get-go. Because here's the problem. This is another case where the marketing got me. Because for the 9 months leading up to this book's release, I swear to God, I think it was 6 to 9 months before this book's release, all I heard were people talking about this book. It is the next big YA fantasy. And it's a standalone. And it's based on ancient Rome. I'm like, standalone YA fantasy? Has there been one of those? In years? So you already had my interest. You tell me it's based on ancient Rome. You also have my attention. Because as a classics lover and being very well versed in it, I'm interested. I want to see what you do with this because it can be done. You just gotta be able to do it. And then all the pre-reviews, the pre-release reviews, are 4 and 5 stars. I don't think I saw a negative review leading up to this book's release. And if they were there, I clearly missed it because all I saw were positive ones. All the people on BookTube were saying how much they loved this book. I pre-ordered this book. I never pre-order books like this. I never pre-order a book unless it is either an author with whom I've come to trust, which is not the case. This is Sabaa Tahir's debut novel, which flows into I'm usually continuing a series. Obviously, I was told this is a standalone. It was a solitary thing. We were reading it for my online book club, in which I'm a part of, and within a couple pages, I was already irritated. A couple more pages, I was just straight up upset, and then I was in a rage for the rest of the book. And I finished it, and I was so pissed off over it. One, it is not a standalone. Not even close to a standalone. So whoever had the bright idea to market it that way, I don't understand what you were doing. Because either there were some serious edit changes to that ending and she somehow trashed a whole ending and wrote one that just isn't an ending, or we were lied to. And if we were lied to, I find that particularly upsetting. Because if you had told me this was a series, it's not like my interest would have dimmed anymore. I understand you don't want people to think that, oh, I have to commit to a whole new series. Well, personally, I like series. I tend to eat them up. I also like standalones. So either way, be honest. Just say, it's going to be part of a series. Very likely a trilogy, because it's young adult, we kind of expect trilogies by this point. 2, the most you get of it being based on ancient Rome are Roman naming schemes. And that's it. Because everything else doesn't feel like Rome. There's really nothing else that makes me think, ooh, this is based on ancient Rome. Because, sorry, you can have those kind of Latinized, Romanized names anywhere, and you don't have to pretend you're based on ancient Rome. So I did not understand the point. And this ultimately ties into the writing. I thought the writing was incredibly shallow. I had no real sense of what this world looked like, of how it worked, and I didn't understand why I was supposed to care. Because of the 2 protagonists, Laia and whatever the guy's name was, Laia was effing useless to the overall narrative. I'm sorry, she was there, but her narrative is basically unimportant. She's there to tell us we have a resistance. You could have done that without her, and I found her particularly dull. And other than that, she interacts with some potentially interesting characters, but we don't find out anything about them, and given the events of the book, we're probably never going to find out about them, so what was the point of Laia? Was it just to give a love interest to the guy? But from what I've understood, Sabaa Tahir actually had a lot of hard time writing whatever her male character's name was, which is disappointing because the overarching plot all takes place within his side of the story. And while he's quasi-interesting, which is my way of saying he's far more tolerable to read than Laia, it is the female counterpart in his side of the story called Helene who should be the protagonist because she's proactive and she actually does stuff. She's having an actual story of self-discovery through the novel, discovering that she has music magic, which I don't even know where this is coming from, and the fact that we have 6 million magical creatures that show up for one small portion of the book and then they never show up again, so I don't understand why they're there. We have ghosts that are completely unexplained. This novel was a mess. An absolute mess. And I was like, this just needed so many more rounds of edits. You either needed to tack on another several hundred pages and really commit to it, or go back to the drawing board. That was my ultimate opinion of this book. It became the poster child for disappointing reads of 2015 because I went into this book so excited I was going to be getting a type of book, which it wasn't. And I still can't even understand how things went so wrong with me reading that book, but they did, and it is very disappointing. I realize I just spent that ranting, and I do apologize, but I have feelings about that book. But that's it for me today, you guys, and so until next time, cheers.